Captain stood on the bridge of the Horizon's Promise and watched the massive station grow larger on the Apex Prime was enormous, bigger than any city on Earth. Thousands of ships from hundreds of different worlds floated around it like insects around a light. This was the center of galactic power, the home of the council that ruled over most of the known galaxy. "We're receiving a docking clearance," said from her station. She was young for a communications officer, but her skills were exceptional. "Base 74. They want us to land in 30 minutes. Nodded, he felt the weight of Earth on his shoulders. Humanity had finally cracked faster-than-light travel just 6 months ago. Now they were here, meeting the powers that controlled the stars. Everything depended on making a good first impression. "What do your sensors tell you about this place?" asked. The science officer studied her screens carefully, had 3 doctoral degrees and a mind that never stopped working. "The technology is old but stable. Very old. Some of these systems haven't been updated in thousands of years. They seem to rely on the same designs over and over." "Is that good or bad?" asked. The tactical officer sat at his station, alert as always. He didn't trust anyone outside Earth, and he made no secret of it. "I'm not sure yet," replied. The docking process went smoothly. When and his small team stepped off the ship, they found themselves in a bay filled with strange aliens. Some had 4 arms, others had scales or feathers. A few looked almost human but with odd skin colors or extra eyes. None of them paid any attention to the new arrivals. A tall creature with gray skin and too many fingers approached them. "You are the humans," it asked in a voice that sounded like grinding metal. A small device on its chest translated the words into English. "Yes, I'm Captain. This is my team. We're honored to." "Follow me. The council will see you now." The creature turned and walked away without waiting, exchanged glances with and whispered, "Not very friendly, are they?" They followed their guide through endless corridors. The station was a maze of halls and rooms, all built from the same gray metal. Everything looked functional but cold. There was no art, no decoration, nothing that spoke of beauty or joy, just efficiency. Finally, they entered a massive chamber. 12 beings sat on raised platforms in a circle. Each was from a different species, and each looked down at the humans with expressions that couldn't quite read. Contempt, boredom, he wasn't sure. "You are the representatives of Earth," one of them said. It was a statement, not a question. The speaker was massive, with dark blue skin and eyes that glowed faintly. "I am Speaker of the Council. We have reviewed your species and your world." "Thank you for meeting with us," said, trying to sound confident. "We hope to establish peaceful relations with—" "Silence!" Another council member spoke, this one covered in what looked like living metal. "You do not speak unless asked a question. You are here to listen and obey." Felt tense beside him. He put a hand on his officer's arm, a silent warning to stay calm. Touched a control on his platform. A hologram appeared in the center of the room, showing Earth rotating slowly. "Your world is small. Your technology is primitive. Your people are divided into warring factions. Yet you have achieved faster-than-light travel. This is unexpected." "We are a determined species," said carefully. "Determined," another council member repeated, the one called. He laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Yes, many species think themselves determined. Then they learn their place." Raised a hand and the room fell silent. "The council has ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. We have seen hundreds of species reach the stars. All of them eventually understand the truth. The galaxy is not chaos. It is order, our order." A document appeared on the hologram, replacing the image of Earth. Tried to read it, but there were hundreds of pages in a language he didn't understand. "This is the incorporation decree," explained. "Every species that wishes to travel beyond their home system must accept it. There are no exceptions, no negotiations." Translator device worked quickly, feeding information to a small screen on his wrist. As he read the translated terms, his blood ran cold. Earth would be limited to their solar system, no expansion allowed. 60% of all resources would go to the Council as taxes. No military development without Council approval. Council advisors would be placed in Earth's government to ensure compliance. No technology could be developed without Council permission. "This is slavery," said quietly. Laughed again. "No, primitive. This is order. This is how civilization works. You give up your foolish independence for the protection and wisdom of the Council. You should be grateful." "And if we refuse?" asked. The room fell completely silent. Several Council members leaned forward with what looked like interest. His glowing eyes brightened slightly. "No one refuses," said simply. "But if you were foolish enough to try, you would face economic sanctions first, then military action. Your people would learn to comply or they would learn to suffer. The choice is simple." Felt's hand on his shoulder. She was looking at her face pale. She had been quietly scanning the Council's databases during the meeting, and she had found something. "We need time to consult with our government," said. "This is not a decision I can make alone." Seemed amused. "Of course, we are not unreasonable. You have 30 standard days to return with your acceptance, 30 days to save your species from its own foolishness." "And if our answer is no?" asked. "Then you will join the 17 other species who refused," said. "Their worlds are silent now, empty monuments to the price of defiance." The meeting was over. The same gray creature led them back to their ship. No one spoke during the walk. His mind was racing, but he kept his face calm. In space, never show weakness, never show fear. Once they were back on the Horizon's Promise and the airlock was sealed, grabbed arm. "I found something in their databases," she said urgently. They weren't lying. 17 species refused the decree. All 17 are gone, extinct. Their worlds are dead, Captain. Cursed looked like she might be sick. Walked to the command chair and sat down heavily. He thought about Earth, about the billions of people who had no idea what was coming, about the choice that wasn't really a choice at all. "Send an encrypted message to Admiral Menu," he said quietly. "Maximum security. Tell him everything, and tell him," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "tell him to prepare for war." As the Horizon's Promise pulled away from Apex Prime, watched the massive station shrink on the Council thought they had seen everything. They thought they understood humanity. They were wrong. And that mistake would cost them everything. The emergency meeting room deep beneath Earth's military headquarters was filled with the most powerful people on the planet. Admiral Menu stood at the head of the table, his face carved from stone. He had read his message 3 times, and each time it made him angrier. "They want us to become slaves," the president of the Asian Union said flatly. "After everything we've achieved, after finally reaching the stars, they want us to surrender." "Not just surrender," the European Federation Chancellor added. "They want to control everything. Our resources, our military, our government, our future." Admiral Menu touched a control, and the hologram of the incorporation decree appeared above the table. "They've done this to hundreds of species. Most accepted. Those who didn't are extinct." "Then we accept," someone said. "We have no choice." "No," Doctor spoke for the first time. She was small, quiet, and the person in the room. When she talked, people listened. "We have a choice, and we have an advantage they don't know about." Every eye turned to her. She stood and activated her own hologram. It showed a complex web of technology, weapons systems, and ship designs. "For the past 100 years, we prepared for this moment," explained. "Not this exactly, but the possibility of hostile alien contact. We developed technologies that went in completely different directions from what we saw in Council databases." "Explain," Admiral Menu said. His hologram changed, showing a strange weapon. The Council banned artificial intelligence thousands of years ago because of some ancient war. They fear it, but we embraced it. Every one of our ships has an AI combat system that can process battlefield data 1,000 times faster than any organic mind. Another image appeared. They declared quantum entanglement weapons impossible. We built them anyway. Their shields can't stop weapons that don't travel through normal space. More images followed, each showing technology the Council had never developed. Swarms that could dismantle ships from the inside. Skip drives that moved faster than Council FTL systems. Gene modifications that enhanced human soldiers beyond natural limits. The Council is old, continued. They stopped innovating ago. They rely on the same technology, the same tactics, the same thinking. We are new, we are hungry, and we are unpredictable. You're saying we can fight them? The President asked. I'm saying they will underestimate us, replied, and that will be their fatal mistake. Admiral Minu felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope, dangerous hope. How long do we have? He asked. 30 days before they expect our answer, said. But I suspect they'll send an enforcement fleet regardless, just to make a point. We need to be ready. Then we get ready, Minu said. What do you need? Everything, replied with a small smile, and I need. Was pulled from his quiet engineering job in the asteroid belt 3 days later. He arrived at Earth expecting a normal project assignment. Instead, he found himself in a secret base on the dark side of the moon, looking at the largest construction project in human history. You want me to build what? He asked, staring at the blueprints. A ghost fleet, Admiral Minu said. 300 warships using technology the Council has never seen, and you have 25 days to do it. That's impossible. Then make it possible. The survival of our species depends on it. Looked at the blueprints again. They were brilliant, radical, and completely insane. He loved them. I'll need every construction team in the system, he said, and complete authority over resources. Done. And when this is over, I want a vacation. Admiral Minu actually smiled. If we survive, you can have a year. Got to work. Within hours, thousands of workers were mobilized. Asteroid mining operations shifted to gathering specific materials. Factories that had been idle for years roared back to life. The secret construction began. While built the fleet, Ambassador worked on a different kind of project. She sat in a quiet room, speaking through an encrypted channel to representatives of 3 species that had seemed uncomfortable during the Council meeting. She said carefully, you all joined the Council within the last 1,000 years. You're newer members. Do you really support what they're doing? There was a long silence. Then a voice spoke, cautious and quiet. What we support does not matter. The Council is too strong. We have no choice but to obey. What if you did have a choice? Asked. There is no choice. We saw what happened to the species who refused. What if, said slowly, humanity refused and survived? Another silence, longer this time. That would change everything, and Representative finally said. But it won't happen. The Council has crushed every rebellion for 10,000 years. Humanity is brave but foolish. Maybe, admitted, but if we somehow win, would you stand with us? If you win, said, everyone will stand with you. The entire galaxy would rise up, but you won't win, Ambassador. No one ever has. Ended the call and sat in the darkness, thinking. The galaxy was full of species who hated the Council but feared them more. If humanity could break that fear, if they could show that the Council could bleed, everything would change. Back on Apex Prime, Speaker met with his fellow Council members in a private chamber. The humans will refuse, said confidently. I saw it in their eyes. They have pride, foolish pride. Good, replied. We need to make an example. It has been too long since we crushed a rebellion. The younger species are growing restless. They need a reminder of our power. I recommend we send General, another council member suggested. He has never lost a battle. Agreed, said. Give him 200 warships. That should be more than enough to handle one primitive world. Laughed. 200 ships to fight primitives who just invented FTL. That's like using a hammer to kill an insect. Exactly, said coldly. I want the entire galaxy to see what happens to species who defy us. I want the humans to understand their mistake before they die. Send. The order went out. General, a veteran commander who had fought in countless battles, received his orders with satisfaction. Finally, some action after years of boring patrol duty. He began assembling his fleet. On Earth, the countdown continued. 20 days, 15 days, 10 days. Worked without sleep, using stimulants to keep going. The Ghost Fleet was taking shape in hidden asteroid bases scattered throughout the solar system. Each ship was a masterpiece of human engineering, packed with weapons the Council had never imagined. Doctor coordinated the defensive preparations. Satellites that looked like civilian communications equipment were actually orbital weapon platforms. Fighter squadrons trained in tactics no alien had ever seen. Gene-modified pilots pushed their bodies beyond normal human limits. Admiral Menu stood in the command center, watching reports flow in from across the solar system. Earth was becoming a fortress, a trap, and the Council had no idea. On day 29, Captain sent the message that everyone had been waiting for. It was broadcast on all Council frequencies, transmitted to every corner of the galaxy. This is Captain of Earth speaking for all humanity. We have reviewed the incorporation decree. After careful consideration, we must respectfully decline. The words echoed across 1,000 worlds. On Apex Prime's eyes blazed with fury. Respectfully decline, he repeated. They dare to refuse. They're primitives, said. They don't understand what they've done. Then we'll teach them, said. Send the order to destroy them. Far from Earth, General received the command with satisfaction. His fleet of 200 warships began moving toward the human home system. It would take them 3 days to arrive. In those 3 days, imagined his easy victory. He would bombard their cities from orbit. He would make them beg for mercy. He would show the galaxy what happened to species who the Council. General had fought for 300 years. He had conquered 40 systems. He had never been defeated. He had no idea that he was sailing into history as the first Council General to lose. General sat in his command throne aboard the flagship Eternal Dominion and watched Earth grow larger on the. Behind him, 199 warships maintained perfect formation. This was the might of the Council, and it was beautiful. Scan shows minimal orbital defenses, his tactical officer reported. A few dozen satellites, some small defense platforms, nothing that could threaten us. As expected, said, primitives playing with toys they don't understand. Open a communication channel. The screen changed to show Earth, that small blue world spinning peacefully. Smiled, showing too many teeth. People of Earth, he broadcast. I am General of the Council Enforcement Fleet. Your leaders have made a terrible mistake by refusing the incorporation decree. I am here to correct that mistake. You have 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. If you comply, only your military will be destroyed. If you resist, we will bombard your cities until you beg for mercy. Choose wisely. He ended the transmission and waited. Had done this before with other species. They always surrendered. Sometimes they tried to negotiate, but they always surrendered in the end. The response came in 30 seconds, a human voice, calm and steady. General, this is Admiral Menu of the Earth Defense Forces. We appreciate you traveling all this way just to hear our answer in person. There was a pause. Humanity has only one response to tyrants. Come and take it. Blinked, then he laughed. Brave words from a dead man. Fleet advanced to orbital bombardment range. Prepare to. Every alarm on the ship started screaming at once. "Contacts," the tactical officer shouted. "Multiple contacts. The satellites are activating. They're not satellites, sir, they're weapons platforms." The peaceful orbit around Earth suddenly lit up with weapons fire. What had thought were civilian communications satellites revealed themselves as sophisticated weapon systems. Quantum torpedoes materialized inside his fleet's formation, bypassing shields entirely and tearing through hulls. "Evasive maneuvers," roared, "return fire." But the Council fleet was designed for overwhelming firepower, not agility. The ships were massive and slow, perfect for intimidating primitives. They were not built for fighting an enemy that attacked from all sides at once. 3 Council warships exploded in the first 30 seconds. "Incoming fighters," someone screamed. Led his squadron through the chaos with a fierce grin. His gene modifications made him faster than any normal human, and his AI co-pilot gave him information before his brain could process it. Together, they were perfect. "Gold Squadron, hit their engine clusters," he commanded. "Don't give them time to regroup." The human fighters were tiny compared to Council warships, but they moved like nothing had ever seen. They dodged defensive fire, slipped through shield gaps, and targeted weak points with surgical precision. More Council ships began to die. "Where did these weapons come from?" demanded. "Their technology should be primitive." "I don't know, sir," his tactical officer replied. "Our intelligence was wrong, everything was wrong." Forced himself to calm down. He was a veteran of 300 years. He had fought worse situations than this. "Focus fire on the planet's surface. If we can't defend ourselves here, we'll make them pay on the ground. Target their major cities." The Council fleet began orienting their bombardment weapons toward Earth. Massive energy cannons that could glass entire continents powered up would teach these humans what happened when you the Council. Then space itself seemed to tear open. "New contacts," the tactical officer's voice cracked with fear. 200 ships all around us. They just appeared out of nowhere. His ghost fleet had arrived. The ships were strange and angular, designed with human aesthetics rather than Council standardization. Each one was packed with technology the Council didn't know existed, and they emerged from skip-drive jumps at point-blank range, already firing. Admiral Menu watched the battle from Earth's command center with cold satisfaction. "All ships, engage at will. Show them what happens when they threaten our home." The Soul's Fury, commanded by, was the most advanced ship in the human fleet, had waited his entire career for this moment. "Cascade cannon charged," his weapons officer reported. "Target the flagship," ordered. "Fire." The Cascade cannon was humanity's most devastating weapon. It didn't destroy ships directly. Instead, it sent a quantum pulse that caused fusion reactors to overload, and the effect spread. The Eternal Dominion's reactor went critical, had 3 seconds to realize what was happening before his ship exploded. The blast triggered the same reaction in the 2 ships nearest to him, then 4 more, then 8. A chain reaction of destruction spread through the Council fleet like a plague. "Retreat," someone was screaming on the Council command channel. "All ships retreat." But there was nowhere to retreat to. Human ships surrounded them. Quantum torpedoes materialized inside their hulls. Fighters picked them apart piece by piece. The Council fleet, which had entered Earth's system with absolute confidence, was being slaughtered. Survived the destruction of his flagship by pure luck. An escape pod launched automatically, carrying him away from the battle. He floated in space, watching his fleet die. 200 warships had arrived at Earth. Within an hour, only 40 remained, and those 40 were desperately trying to surrender. "This is Council Ship Valiant," a panicked voice broadcast. "We surrender, please, we surrender." Admiral Menu let the silence stretch out for a long moment. Then he spoke, and his voice was broadcast not just to the Council ships but to the entire galaxy. You came to our home to make us slaves. You threatened to destroy our cities and kill our people. And now you want mercy." He paused. "We are not the council. We don't kill prisoners. You may surrender and you will be treated according to the laws of war. But know this, the galaxy is watching. Let them see what happens when tyrants threaten humanity." The remaining council ships surrendered. Human crews boarded them, taking survivors into custody. Medical teams treated the wounded, even though hours before these same aliens had been trying to kill them. Spad was recovered last. When he was brought before Admiral Menu, the old general looked broken. "How?" he asked simply. "Our intelligence said you were primitive. Your technology was centuries behind ours." "Your intelligence was based on what you could see," Menu replied. "You never thought to look deeper. You assumed we would follow the same path as everyone else. You thought you understood us." He leaned forward. "That was your mistake." "The Council will send more fleets," said. "Bigger fleets. You cannot fight the entire galaxy." "We won't have to," Menu said. "Because we're going to show the galaxy something they haven't seen in 10,000 years. We're going to show them that the Council can bleed." The footage of the battle was already spreading across the galaxy. Every species that had submitted to the Council, every world that lived under their rules, saw the same thing. The mighty Council fleet, destroyed by a species they had called primitive. The impossible had happened. On Apex Prime, Speaker watched the footage for the 10th time. His hands shook with rage. "Impossible," he kept saying. "This is impossible." Stood beside him, his metal skin pale. "Sir, we need to respond. If we show weakness now, others might rebel." "I know," snapped. "Assemble the full council. We need to discuss our options." But even as he said it, reports were coming in from across the galaxy. 3 species had formally withdrawn from council authority. Protests were breaking out on dozens of worlds. The younger species were watching Earth with wonder and hope. The council's grip on the galaxy was slipping. On Earth, Captain stood on the observation deck of an orbital station, looking down at his. It was untouched, unharmed. They had won. Joined him, exhausted but smiling. "We did it. We actually did it." "We won the battle," corrected. "The war is just beginning." "Do you think they'll come back?" "I know they will. The Council won't accept this defeat. They'll come with everything they have." He turned to face her. "But now the galaxy knows we can fight, and that changes everything." Far across the galaxy, in a secret meeting room on a neutral station, Ambassador sat with representatives of the and species. Their faces showed shock and disbelief. "You won," they said quietly. "You actually won." "Yes," replied. "And now I'll ask you again, will you stand with us?" The 3 representatives looked at each other. For 10,000 years, they had lived under council rule. For 10,000 years, they had believed resistance was impossible. Humanity had just proven them wrong. "Yes," they said finally. "Yes, we will stand with you." The alliance was forming, and the council's worst nightmare was beginning. The council chamber on Apex Prime had never been so chaotic. For the first time in 10,000 years, the 12 elder species were shouting at each other instead of presenting a united front. "We must crush them immediately," demanded. "Send the entire fleet, burn Earth to ashes and scatter the remains as a warning." "And if we lose again?" another council member asked. 3 more species have formally withdrawn. 5 others are considering it. If we attack Earth and fail, the entire galaxy will rise against us." Speaker raised his hand for silence. The arguing stopped, but the tension remained. "We will not act in haste," he said carefully. "But we cannot show weakness either. The younger species are watching. If they believe the Council can be defeated, our empire will collapse." "Then what do you suggest?" asked. His eyes glowed brighter. "First, we deal with the traitors, and have withdrawn from council authority. We send occupation fleets to there. We remind them of the price of rebellion." "And the humans?" We prepare, said. We gather our strength, and when we strike with such overwhelming force that no one will ever dare defy us again. The occupation fleets deployed within days. The OV Prime suddenly found itself surrounded by Council warships. Their planetary defense forces were ordered to stand down and accept Council governors. They refused. The bombardment began within hours. Orbital platforms defending Prime were destroyed one by one. The Council fleet prepared to target the planet's cities, just as they had threatened Earth. Then space tore open, and Captain's fleet arrived. The human ships emerged from skip drive jumps already firing. Quantum torpedoes materialized inside Council ships, tearing them apart from within. Fighters swarmed like angry bees, targeting weapons systems and engines. All Council ships, this is Captain, he broadcast. You have 30 seconds to retreat or surrender, your choice. The Council commander, shocked by the sudden appearance of human forces, made the only logical choice. His fleet retreated. They was saved, and the rescue was broadcast across the galaxy. On dozens of worlds, people watched in amazement as the small human fleet drove off the mighty Council. The impossible was happening again and again. Ambassador worked tirelessly to organize the growing resistance. What started as 3 species had grown to 12, then 20, then 27. She established the Free Worlds Coalition, an alliance of species who refused to bow to Council authority. We cannot win through military strength alone, she told the Coalition Assembly. The Council still has thousands of ships and we have hundreds, but we have something they don't, hope, and we have humanity's technology. Will you share your weapons with us? A representative asked. We will share everything, replied. Training, technology, tactical support. We stand together or we fall separately. The technology transfer began immediately. Human engineers traveled to coalition worlds, teaching them how to build quantum weapons and skip drives. Human tactics instructors trained alien defense forces in new ways of fighting. The coalition was becoming stronger every day. But the Council was preparing too. Deep in the restricted archives of Apex Prime, Speaker stood before a massive sealed door. Only the Speaker had access to this place, and for good reason. Behind this door was the Council's most terrible secret. Are you certain? Asked beside him. Once we use this, there is no going back. The humans have given us no choice, replied. They must be destroyed, and they must be destroyed completely. No survivors, no hope for the rebels, total annihilation. He placed his hand on the seal and the door opened. Inside, floating in a containment field, was a device the size of a small ship. It pulsed with sickly green energy. The Starbreaker, said quietly. Forbidden for 5,000 years, but desperate times require desperate measures. The Starbreaker was the Council's ultimate weapon. It could ignite a star, causing it to go supernova and destroy every planet in the system. It had been used 3 times in ancient history, and each time entire civilizations had been erased. Deploy it to Earth's system, ordered. If the Council cannot rule the galaxy, we will teach the galaxy to fear us again. On Earth, Doctor sat in her lab, reviewing intelligence reports from across the galaxy. Something was wrong. The Council had gone quiet, pulling back their forces and ceasing all offensive operations. They're planning something, she told Admiral Minu. Something big. Can you be more specific? Minu asked. Not yet, but I've detected unusual energy signatures near Apex Prime. They've accessed some kind of ancient facility. She pulled up a star chart. If I had to guess, they're preparing a super weapon. Minu felt cold. What kind of weapon? I don't know, but based on the energy readings, it's something that could destroy a planet, or worse. Get me everything you can on Council weapons technology, Minu ordered. And send word too. We need the Coalition fleet ready for anything. But the intelligence came too late. 3 days later, a council ship carrying the Starbreaker entered Earth's solar system. It moved slowly, carefully, positioning itself near the sun. The alert reached Earth's defenses within minutes. Unknown council vessel approaching the sun, the tactical officer reported. They're not responding to hails. They're not even trying to hide. Admiral Menu pulled up the ship's scan. It was small, lightly armed. One ship, what are they playing at? Then Doctor burst into the command center, her face white with terror. It's the Starbreaker, she said. I found references in the old databases. It's a device that ignites stars. They're going to make our sun go supernova. The room went silent. How long do we have? Menu asked. Based on their positioning, 72 hours before the device activates. 72 hours until the sun exploded. 72 hours until Earth and everyone on it died. Can we destroy the ship? Menu asked. It's shielded, and if we damage it wrong, it might trigger early. Pulled up technical schematics she had found. There's only one way to stop it. Someone has to manually override the quantum entanglement field from inside the device core. And whoever does that didn't answer, she didn't need to. Menu sent an emergency message to Captain and the Coalition fleet. They were 3 systems away, finishing the liberation of an colony world. When received the message, he read it 3 times to make sure he understood. Then he turned to his crew. Emergency skip drive to Earth, maximum speed. Sir, that's dangerous, his navigator warned. We could tear the ship apart. Do it anyway. Earth has 72 hours before the sun explodes. The fleet made the jump, pushing their skip drives beyond safe limits. Ships rattled and groaned, but they held together. When they emerged near Earth, 68 hours remained. At the same time, doctor and scientist worked desperately on an alternative plan. If they couldn't stop the Starbreaker, maybe they could shield Earth from it. A star-sized quantum shield, said, staring at the calculations. It's theoretically possible, but we've never tested anything close to this scale. We have 2 choices, replied. Try the shield and possibly destroy Earth ourselves, or do nothing and definitely die when the sun explodes. They began building the largest quantum device in human history. Every available engineer worked around the clock. The shield generators were positioned at strategic points around the solar system, all synchronized to activate at the exact same moment. If this works, we'll survive, said. If it fails, we'll tear a hole in space-time and kill ourselves faster than the supernova would. Those are terrible odds, said. They're the only odds we have. While Earth prepared its desperate defense, Captain led an assault on Apex Prime itself. He knew it was a suicide mission. The Council headquarters was the most heavily defended location in the galaxy. But it was also where Speaker was, and if could capture or kill him, maybe the Council would recall the Starbreaker. This is insane, said as they approached the massive station. Completely insane, agreed, which is why they won't expect it. The Coalition fleet hit Apex Prime with everything they had. Human ships and cruisers and fighters and bombers all attacking together. The Council's defenses were strong, but they had never faced this kind of coordinated assault. Breach team with me, ordered. We're going straight for the Council chamber. While the battle raged outside, led a strike team through Apex Prime's corridors. They fought past automated defenses and Council guards, losing soldiers with every step. Finally, they reached the Council chamber, kicked open the door to find Speaker standing at a control console at his side. You cannot stop it, said calmly. Earth burns in 60 seconds. At Earth, the Starbreaker began its final activation sequence. The sun started to destabilize, energy building toward a catastrophic release. Doctor activated the quantum shield. Every generator around the solar system powered up simultaneously, creating a barrier between Earth and its dying star. The shield held, barely. And in the Starbreaker's core, someone was making a desperate choice to save humanity. Ran through the corridors of the Starbreaker ship, her heart pounding. She had volunteered for this mission knowing she might not come back. Someone had to get inside the device and shut it down, and she was the only one who understood the technology well enough to try. Behind her, the ship's automated defenses fired at her position, but she was already gone, moving with the speed and precision that came from years of training. She had studied the schematics for the past 60 hours straight. She knew every corridor, every access point, every weak spot in the security system. The core chamber was ahead, 50 seconds until activation. "Report," Admiral Minu's voice crackled in her earpiece. "Almost there," she gasped, sliding under a closing blast door. 30 seconds. On Apex Prime, aimed his weapon at speaker. "Deactivate the Starbreaker," he demanded. "Now." Laughed a cold and terrible sound. "I cannot. Only someone at the device core can override it, and in 20 seconds it won't matter. Earth will burn, and the galaxy will learn to fear the Council again." "You're willing to kill billions of people just to maintain your power?" asked. "Power is all that matters," said. "Without power, there is only chaos. The Council brought order to the galaxy. If we must burn worlds to maintain that order, so be it." His finger tightened on the trigger, but killing wouldn't stop the device. Only could do that. Reached the core chamber and stared at the massive device floating before her. It pulsed with green energy, counting down to Earth's destruction. 15 seconds. She pulled up the override sequence on her, fingers flying across the controls. But as she worked, she realized something terrible. The Council had built into the Starbreaker. It couldn't be simply deactivated. The quantum entanglement field had to be redirected. 10 seconds. She could redirect it. She could save Earth. But the device would still fire and it would need a target. She looked at the coordinates displayed on the core, showing Earth's sun. With trembling fingers, she began changing them. 5 seconds. "What's happening?" Minu's voice demanded. "I can't shut it down," she said, her voice surprisingly calm. "But I can change the target." She entered new coordinates. Apex Prime, the Council's headquarters, the symbol of their power and oppression. "No," she heard scream through the communication system. "What are you doing?" "Teaching you a lesson," replied. "The same lesson you tried to teach us." 3 seconds. "You need to evacuate," his voice broke through. "Get out of there." "There's no time," she said. She looked at the timer. 2 seconds. "Tell my family I love them. Tell Earth that we won." 1 second. "For humanity," she whispered and pressed the final key. The Starbreaker activated. On Earth, Doctor watched her instruments in confusion. The sun was stabilizing. The energy buildup was dissipating. The quantum shield was holding, but it wasn't needed anymore. "The Starbreaker isn't targeting us," said, staring at her screens. "It's targeting." Apex Prime finished. At the Council headquarters, every alarm in the station began screaming. His face went from triumph to horror in an instant. "No," he whispered, "no." "All ships evacuate immediately," shouted into his communicator. "Coalition fleet retreat, maximum speed." His fleet ran. They jumped to skip drive as fast as their systems could engage. Behind them, Apex Prime began to glow with an eerie green light. Stood frozen at his console, watching death approach. He had ruled for 3 centuries. He had crushed rebellions and conquered worlds. He had believed the Council was eternal, that their power was absolute. Grabbed his arm. "We have to go." But there was nowhere to go. The Council's own security systems, designed to protect them from attack, now trapped them inside their fortress. The blast doors they had created to keep enemies out now kept them in. "This is impossible," said. "We are the Council, we cannot." The Starbreaker reached full power. Apex Prime, the seat of galactic power for 10,000 years, exploded. The ancient station and everyone on it was consumed in seconds. The 12 elder species of the council, the generals and admirals, the bureaucrats and enforcers, all died in the fire they had intended for Earth. The shockwave spread across the galaxy, both physical and metaphorical. Every species received the same message, broadcast from the coalition fleet. The council is dead. 10,000 years of tyranny end today. On Earth, people poured into the streets, cheering and crying. They had survived. Against impossible odds, they had faced the most powerful empire in the galaxy and won. But Admiral Minu stood alone in the command center, staring at the empty space where Signal had been. She had saved Earth. She had saved humanity. And she had paid the ultimate price. "We'll remember you," he said quietly. "The whole galaxy will remember you." The aftermath came quickly. With the Council's leadership destroyed and their headquarters gone, the remaining Council forces surrendered or fled. Species that had been oppressed for suddenly found themselves free. Ambassador called for an emergency session of all galactic species. They met on a neutral world in a hastily constructed assembly hall. 89 species sent representatives. For the first time in recorded history, they met as equals. "The council is gone," said to the gathered representatives. "We can return to the old ways, fighting and competing and eventually creating another empire. Or we can build something new, something better." "You want us to follow humanity's leadership instead?" a skeptical asked. "No," said firmly. "I want no one to lead. I want a true alliance where every species has an equal voice, where no one can force their will on others, where freedom and cooperation replace domination and fear." The debate lasted for 3 days, but eventually they reached an agreement. The Free Galactic Alliance was formed, based on principles of equality, mutual respect, and shared prosperity. No species would rule another, no forced incorporation, no economic slavery. It wasn't perfect. There were disputes and arguments and compromises, but it was better than what had come before. Earth became a monument to sacrifice. In the capital city, a statue was erected showing her standing tall, looking toward the stars. The inscription read simply, "She gave everything so that billions could live free." Admiral Minu retired after the war, his duty fulfilled. He spent his remaining years writing a history of humanity's struggle, ensuring that future generations would never forget the price of freedom. Captain became the first Grand Admiral of the Alliance fleet, commanding a force dedicated to protecting freedom rather than enforcing tyranny. Under his leadership, the fleet became a symbol of hope rather than fear. The N species thrived in the new alliance, contributing their own unique technologies and perspectives. The galaxy became more diverse, more creative, more alive than it had been in thousands of years. 20 years after the war, something unexpected happened. A delegation from one of the elder council species that had survived the destruction of Apex Prime, requested permission to join the alliance. "We acknowledge our crimes," their representative said to the assembly. "For we supported the council's tyranny. We helped oppress hundreds of species. We cannot change the past, but we wish to build a better future." There was heated debate. Many species wanted to reject to make them pay for their role in the council's atrocities. But Ambassador, now Earth's president, spoke in their favor. "We did not fight to replace one empire with another," she said. "We fought for freedom, for justice, and for the chance to build something better. If we reject species who wish to change, to grow, to become better than they were, then we become what we fought against." The vote was close, but they were accepted. They brought with them knowledge and technology from the old council, shared freely with all alliance members. They became living proof that change was possible, that even those who had supported tyranny could choose a different path. On Earth, in a classroom at the First Galactic Academy, children from dozens of species studied together. Human children sat next to, and even students. They learned about the war, about the council, about sacrifice. A young human student raised her hand. "Teacher, if the council came back, would we fight them again?" Who had been a fighter pilot during the war, smiled at the question. She had asked herself the same thing many times. "The council won't come back," she said, "because we learned from them. We learned what happens when power becomes tyranny, when order becomes oppression. We built something better." "But what if someone else tries to conquer the galaxy?" the student persisted. Looked around the classroom, at the mix of species learning together, growing together, building a future together. "Then we would stand together just like we did before," she said. "The council made a fatal error. They thought humanity would kneel. They thought we would accept slavery to save our lives. They underestimated us." "Because we're strong?" another student asked. "Because we believe in freedom," corrected. "Strength comes and goes. Technology advances and becomes obsolete. But the belief that all beings deserve freedom, that no one should rule over others through fear and force, that belief is eternal. The council thought they were eternal too, but they were wrong." She walked to the window and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the galaxy continued to grow and change. New species were joining the alliance. Old wounds were slowly healing. The future was uncertain, but it was free. "The council made a fatal error," repeated. "They forgot that tyranny always falls. They forgot that people will fight for freedom, no matter the cost. They forgot that underestimating humanity was the last mistake they would ever make." The students nodded, understanding. They would grow up in a galaxy their parents had fought to free. They would inherit a future built on sacrifice and hope. And they would remember. They would always remember, and Minyu, and all the others who had stood against impossible odds and refused to kneel. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity taught the council the price of tyranny. And it would never forget the lesson: freedom is worth fighting for, no matter the cost.